This is a guy named Gene Bailey. He's a televangelist, a megachurch pastor, and also the host of a TV show called Flashpoint. It's on the Victory Network, owned and operated by Kenneth Copeland, and they get into some absolute shenaniganery on this sometimes. Like, it gets crazy, some of the stuff they believe. It's far-right, pro-Trump, evangelical stuff. These people represent Donald Trump for all intents and purposes. So I wanted to listen to what they had to say. Now, this is the second part. If you haven't seen the first, don't sweat it. This stands independently of the rest. You don't have to see the other to understand this. But in the last one, they were talking about Target being the target of domestic terrorism, effectively. So anyways, let's talk about these guys. They were talking about Target and Bud Light and how they're woke and evil and everything else last time. Let's give this a listen. See what these people have to say. This is who it's about. We've got on the far left, Gene Bailey, and then second to the left is a guy named Luke Ball. He's a propagandist for the right. I think he was a political strategist, quote unquote, for Madison Cawthorne, for Matt Gaetz. I think Marjorie Taylor Greene too. I don't know if she was involved in that or not. Anyway, he's a big political strategist for the Freedom Caucus, quote unquote, the complete nutcases, basically. Then we've got just some random pastor. I forget this guy. Lucas, maybe, is his name. Third person in line here. And then on the far right, John Solomon, editor-in-chief of Just the News, which I believe is like a far-right outlet that has been shouted out by Donald Trump a couple times. So naturally, these people have to talk about it. So we're jumping into a new subject here. We're not like jumping in halfway through a subject. Let's just see what they have to say here.
Start over. Bud Light does this horrific thing with Dylan Mulvaney. It's
horrific thing, he says. Horrific thing with Dylan Mulvaney, which is to say, just advertised with her. That's it. Just advertised with her.
Crash and burn. They lose millions and millions and millions of dollars.
They didn't actually. To my knowledge, Bud Light's stock price is up right now, isn't it? I could be wrong there.
You would think from business side of things that people would go, hey, guys, let's don't do that. Let's don't do that and get upset our shareholders and our bottom line. Yet here comes Miller doing the same thing. Are these guys? Is there just so much pressure, Luke, that's coming in here that this is? It must be this because they're like, oh, okay, let's do the same thing and see if it works.
Dude, this is just pitiful. These people are obsessed with what people to the left of hunting the homeless for sport are doing with their lives. Why don't they just leave people alone and let them live their lives and call it a day? I don't understand. This is crazy.
Works for us.
Yeah, I believe that the Bud Light boycott was one of the largest successful boycotts in the history of the conservative movement.
It wasn't really successful, at all. Matter of fact, you know what? Since he says this, let's just look up the statistics on it and see. Hang on. Bud Light's stock price. I think it's actually Anheuser-Busch that owns Bud Light. All right, here we go. Stock chart. There we go. Just, let's see, year to date. Oh, wow. Actually, it is kind of down as of May 5th. When did Dylan Mulvaney do? Here, let's look at 1 year and 5 years. Oh. Well, when you zoom out to 5 years, things become a lot clearer. Matter of fact, they're up from where they were in October. This looks like normal fluctuations. Interesting. I mean, they are down a little bit, apparently, but not much. This could totally be attributed to normal fluctuations in the market. Easily. So I guess it's debatable if it was successful. If you want to take credit, I suppose there was a small drop as of, I don't know, 2 weeks ago. But this whole issue started long before that. All right, let's keep listening here.
Unfortunately, many Christians don't drink. I don't, and so I wasn't able to boycott Bud Light. And so when we're looking at a lot of these other things going on with Target.
You know what? I didn't even think about that. That's fascinating. That's a good point. Most Christians, or many evangelical Christian extremists, don't drink. I had not even considered.
Target or whenever other outlets mess up like this, people don't seem to rally behind the concept of wanting to go out there and ensure that our message is heard in an orderly and timely manner. And why is that? Sometimes it's because it comes at a slight convenience to us. Instead of having to drive 15 minutes to go get our groceries, we might have to drive 20 minutes. But to make our voices heard, we might have to sacrifice a little bit and ensure that we get our message out to say that we're not going to put up with this garbage. And I, to your point, Gene, think that the pressure does come from both sides. Because when Bud Light started to say, hold on, we don't want any of this, then the LGBT community started to put pressure on them. So,
well, actually, to be fair, Bud Light has always kind of supported right-wing extremists. They've always been on the wrong side of this whole thing, to be fair. So this isn't like, the LGBT community put pressure on them to be better. They were always bad. The only reason they ever marketed to Dylan Mulvaney's audience is because it was a new, what would you call, like a new group of people, a new demographic. That's the word I was looking for. A new demographic that they could advertise to that would draw in new eyeballs and new purchasers. And it's an intelligent decision to make on Bud Light's part, honestly, on Anheuser-Busch's part. It's an intelligent choice to make because it means that they can appeal to Gen Z, the people that turned the tide of the last election, those people, they can market to them. Intelligent decision. But they've always been bad, truthfully.
They were between a complete rock and a hard place. They will always fight back. Christians need to be the ones that are pushing, and conservatives too, to ensure that we have a successful operation to make our voices heard, just as the left does.
Absolutely. And this is why we must keep doing the boycotts. Yes, I understand believers don't drink, and that's great. So you, in essence, you are boycotting because you weren't ever drinking it. But,
Well, see, that's the thing. That's what's interesting about this, actually. It's the same phenomenon that happened with Jehovah's Witnesses, okay? They were just cut out of the market. Like, they were accounted for. Nobody cares if they're going to vote. I'm sorry. Nobody cares if you're going to buy Bud Light or not because you're not a part of the market anymore. With Jehovah's Witnesses, they refuse to buy, like, Halloween candy or Christmas candy or whatever. So they're just removed from the market. Nobody pays any attention to them. That's how it works. And it's really, really interesting that he puts it that way. It's an interesting point that he brings up there. They're just cut out of the market. It's pointless to even bother complaining about or advertising to them or whatever.
That goes like some of us, it's real easy when you need something and there's a Target store, you go, I'll just run in and get this one thing. And I'm not saying I don't but at some point you're going to have to draw the line. At some point, but because this is all these companies.
Okay, if you don't know what happened with Target, I'll just give you like a 15-second version. Target had an LGBT section where they sold various LGBT outfits or whatever. They were adult outfits, not for children, but the right claimed that these outfits were made for children in the children's section. They actually, in the viral TikTok that made this famous in the first place, they played this in the last part, they grabbed they grabbed the adult pride outfits and brought them to the children's section and filmed and claimed that they had always been there, or at least implied that they'd always been there, that they were always in the children's section, and that they were marketing to children. I mean, it's pure, unadulterated lies from beginning to end. Lie after lie after lie with these people.
Companies know. And I don't see Bud Light even moving off of what they're saying. They may, not publicly saying this. John Solomon, are you hearing anything there with Bud Light? Or have they admitted this was a fiasco, a disaster?
I think they're trying to sweep it under the rug and not have to make that admission. But listen,
Right.
Their bottom line lets them know it was a mistake. Their customer base lets them know that it's a mistake. What you're seeing today, this destruction of institutions that have stayed out of politics, and they suddenly got involved in politics, and they're creating great danger to themselves and the country. The FBI used to stay out of politics. Now it puts its thumbs on the political scale. The
FBI is not putting their thumb on the political scale. Like, that's nonsense. All of this is nonsense. But okay.
Intelligence community historically stayed out of politics. They did in the last 2 elections. We saw what happened there. Corporations tended to stay out of politics. Maybe they made donations, but they didn't really enter the town hall and say, our brand is behind this position. They've done that, and they've paid a dear price. Long trusted institutions have harmed themselves by inserting themselves into a place where they never were intended to be, which is in the political spectrum.
Oh, fascinating. Wow, this is actually really interesting. So what he's saying here is it's wrong for corporations to be involved in politics, but church belongs in politics. And if you have any problem with church being involved in politics to any degree at all, you're evil and sick and a bigot and possessed by Satan.
Putting themselves into a place where they never were intended to be, which is in the political spectrum.
Or in your mom.
And we ain't even got to that part of the show yet. So much more along that way on the politics of it all. All right, so look.
Wait, didn't they just cover that like a few minutes ago?
This was the most disturbing video I've seen to date, because what do you want to attack the American male, heterosexual male?
I'm sorry, what?
This is how you do it. Watch this. You're not going to believe this ad. Watch.
Do not attempt to recreate or reenact the epic stunts shown. Oh, it's Ford. It's a Ford advertisement. Okay, let me tell you something about Ford. Walking into this, before we go any further, I want to point out that Ford, at least Henry Ford, the creator of Ford, the guy who started the whole thing, was a Nazi, a full-blown Nazi. And as a matter of fact, you guys may have heard of this thing called the Protocols of the Elders of Zion. He famously passed out copies of the Protocols of the Elders of Zion. As a matter of fact, he was so much of a Nazi that Hitler liked the dude, respected him, honored him, thought he was fantastic, implemented his ideas. Dead serious, okay? The guy was terrible. Henry Ford was. Now, Ford is obviously a different company now or whatever, but I don't know. It just seems odd to me that these people are not supporting Ford, but they're opposed to them now. Complete opposite ends of the spectrum all of a sudden, out of nowhere. Okay, let's keep listening to these nutter butters spread their nutter buttery. It's on the lower third. It says Ford goes woke. Oh my God. Okay, so if you're just listening and not watching, it's just a Ford ad where 2 pickup trucks show up and meet or whatever. Okay, how did they go woke? How is this Ford going woke? I don't understand. Get to the point. What, am I missing something? How is this Ford going woke? This makes no sense. And of course, more almost certainly copyrighted music, right? Just get to the point, please. What happened? I don't understand. What did I miss? What was there to wince over? What did I miss? Let's hang on. What did I miss? Redefining tough. Oh, I see. Okay. Okay, so if you didn't notice, the word tough had a rainbow in it. Wow, the gall, huh? Having a rainbow? Ugh. Men everywhere winced. Oh, so disgusting, huh? Terrible. Ford gone woke.
Okay. I know there are guys wincing all across America right now going, no, say it ain't so. Ford going woke. Lucas Miles, I think you need to write another book, Woke Auto.
It might be time. It really might. Look, I think this...
God, this is just painful, dude. Honestly. Really? This is the thing that you're upset about? Get over yourself. Just move on with your life. Who cares?
This is another perfect example. I just don't believe that companies are this stupid. And so when you look at this and you see each company losing money every single time they do this, we have the saying, go woke, go broke. Why does it keep happening?
Well, not for nothing. This sounds like cancel culture to me. I mean, that's exactly what this is, isn't it? It's cancel culture, right? Cancel culture gone awry. People losing their minds and canceling companies. Isn't that what this is right now? not for nothing.
There is incentives that are taking place. There has to be something happening behind the scenes that most Americans are not aware of that continues to make it, beneficial for these companies to make these ads and to go in this direction, to jump into the political side of this, pool. And so it's sad to see a company like Ford do this, this great American company that has so much history.
Great American company, so much history of being Nazis. Definitely.
History in our nation. But again, we have to respond to that. And I think it's very important. Look, you almost can't even buy a car anymore without funding a company that's.
Well, let me tell you something. If you feel like you can't even buy a car anymore without thinking about what a company does or funds or whatever, it sounds like it's a you problem, to be perfectly honest. You may be a little bit too obsessed with the goings-on in companies or whatever. You may be too obsessed with your ideology. Move on. Find something else to do with your life and your time. Tucker Carlson was fired from Fox News a while back, and as a result, Fox News lost 1 million viewers or something. They lost like a massive number of viewers, like a lot, right? Where do those people go? I would like to believe, this probably is too optimistic, but I would like to think that those people just turned off Fox News and turned on like Matlock or like the Andy Griffith Show or something, Move on with your life. Find other interests. Politics obviously isn't for you. And honestly, neither is religion. Because you are way, way, way too obsessive over this stuff, truthfully. You've got to find a new hobby. You must. Oh my God. I didn't even know that holy shit. Okay. Wow. And I died. I didn't even realize that rail was cut.
That's going in this direction. It's really sad.
Yeah, you know who didn't do that? Toyota. They didn't give to BLM. They're not, at least unless something happened in the last week. I haven't seen.
See, he's hedging because he's worried. He's afraid. He fears that there's a possibility, maybe, this company did go woke, quote unquote, as he says. That maybe he'll be disappointed by this company too. That maybe he'll have to boycott this too. If you didn't see part 1, he was talking about how Skittles has gone woke, and he's sick of Skittles being woke. But he loves his M&Ms. Oh, please don't let M&Ms be a bad company. It's the same company, and he had no idea. It's honestly embarrassing, but whatever. He says, oh, please, not my peanut M&Ms. His wife says, yep, sorry, M&Ms too. Just embarrassing and painful and sad.
That John Solomon, let me go back to you. Automakers. Now, we know for a fact that this is the woke, the gay agenda is very heavily influencing Hollywood. I mean, it's very difficult to make a film, to make any type of movie without forcibly, you want to get funding, you have to use so many gay people, so many trans and all this.
Oh, dude, what are you talking about? If you want to get funding, you have to use so many gay people, so many trans and all that. What are you talking about, dude? Nobody is forcing Hollywood to make movies with gay people in it, okay? You know what happens, really? Imagine this, okay? For a second. Just close your eyes and picture yourself in an African country, right? You're in an African country, and everybody is black. Every single person around, practically. You're like alone here. You're like the lone white person, or almost the lone white person. Like very few people in this country are white. And now imagine this company, this movie, has one white person in it. Imagine how good you'd feel about just seeing somebody like you in the movie. Imagine that. That's what the black community feels in the U.S. by and large. You know why? Because like a massive percentage of the country is not black or is white. It was 70-something% is white, right? Or somewhere in there, or 60-something%, and like 70-something% are black. I'm sorry, and not 70. I mean 14% are black. Is that right? Somewhere in there, right? Imagine finding out that this movie like represented you. That these people looked a little bit like you. A little bit. Imagine finding out that the culture being represented was your culture, not the prevailing culture in all of society. It wouldn't be going woke. It would just be appealing to a demographic. That's it. It's not like they're trying to like be nice to you because they fear that they'll lose donators or whatever other nonsense is being made up here. It's not like that. It's like they're trying to appeal to a demographic of people, plain and simple. Like the Dylan Mulvaney stuff. Bud Light is not on the left, never was. They're on the right. They donate to right-wing causes. They're only attempting to get more money, to open up to new demographics. That's it.
Stuff. But is it really gone this far over into corporate America?
It has. I mean, listen.
Dude, these people need to get a life, seriously.
It's in every part of government right now. The FBI has happiness sessions right now so that agents can find their inner happiness instead of solving crimes.
Dude, what is he talking about? Agents look for their inner happiness instead of solving crimes? They have happiness hour at the FBI? What? Are you kidding me? Is this even real? I doubt it. These people have to come up with the most absurd scenarios they can imagine to demonize the people they don't like at any cost.
Level of touchy-feely liberal indoctrination is spread far and wide in every aspect of it. I see it in almost everything I cover right now. It probably is a fad. It probably is, one of the things when you look at the American experience is whenever we stretch too far in one direction or the other, the gravity of the constitutional republic, the gravity of the American people has a way of bringing us back to our common senses. And right now, I think the pendulum is about as far stretched out as it's going to go.
Bringing us back to our common senses, he says. Our common senses. Okay, interesting. Like, this is just fabricated outrage. That's all it is. Fabricated outrage. These people are mad about nothing. Like, get over yourselves and move on with your life and find a new hobby. It's like those Fox News viewers. Please, get help. Move on with your life. Find something else to do. It's absolutely insane.
And there is some signs that the magnet and the gravity of common sense in America is starting to pull that back. It isn't just the economics of companies getting punished for making decisions that don't match their customers' wishes. There are many other things. The school board movement, the Glenn Youngkin win in Virginia a couple of years.
Okay, yeah. Glenn Youngkin won governor position in Virginia. That didn't really imply that, like, the right was winning or that the right was, like, taking things away or anything like that. That commonly happens when there's a presidential election and a Virginia governor election. The governor goes opposite of, the presidential, like, vote or nominee or whatever. So, yeah, this is, it's not surprising. It's not this big crazy thing the way that they're making out, like Youngkin won. It was kind of devastating, not fantastic, that Youngkin took control, and he's like an anti-woke nutcase, sadly. But it wasn't surprising at all.
Years ago, these are wake-up calls that the silent majority aren't going to stay silent much longer.
No, I think you're exactly right. There will not be happiness sessions, control room. There will not be happiness sessions.
Is that even real? I doubt it.
In case you guys were wondering.
Wait, the FBI has required classes after a trauma like a shooting, etc. Mental health. Okay, so any mental health is woke, I guess. That sounds about right. That sounds like what I have come to expect from these types of people. Honestly, sad.
Let me go back to you, Lucas Miles, about your book. I need to find out more about it, but here are some things that you put in there. You said, number one, don't attend a woke church. What's a woke church?
Please tell me what a woke church is.
A woke church is a church that has exchanged really Christian doctrine, a biblical worldview for this leftist agenda, this Marxist, cultural Marxism. They're elevating.
Okay, cultural Marxism as like a saying is absurd. There is no such thing as cultural Marxism. This was Sargon of Akkad's major contribution to the movement, though. He constantly talked about cultural Marxism, how they're trying to take over everything. Honestly, completely absurd.
everything from, gender, race, all of these things over the gospel. And I think it's very important that if you're at a woke church or you think you might be at a woke church, you need to start asking some tough questions to your pastor. And if you find out that your pastor has really, distanced himself or walked away from biblical orthodoxy, it's time to vote with both your tithe money and your attendance and go someplace else.
Yeah, without a doubt. All right, so let's go down.
God, dude, these people have problems. They have to move on with their lives, honestly. This is sad now.
List here. Know what your child is being taught in school. John Solomon just talked about that. What's happened with our school boards being flipped. Is this really still an issue with good church-going people?
What, getting out and voting in school board elections? Is that what they're asking?
Absolutely. I think that the average person is still fairly disconnected from the curriculum at their local public school. Last year, I was asked by a series of parents as well as one of the school board members at my local district that I actually graduated from. And it's a school of probably about 3,000 students in northern Indiana. And I actually reviewed all of their SEL curriculum or DEI curriculum that it would also be referred to. And
Okay, DEI, I think, stands for something like diversity, equity, and inclusion. I think that's right. Diversity, equity, and inclusion. The idea is it's a legally required part of a company. Legally required because you have like Title IX. I'm sorry, you have Title IX requirements. I believe you're legally required to basically hire certain groups or certain amounts of people. Like, you can't exclude somebody for being white, is the bottom line. I'm sorry. Let me rephrase. You can't exclude somebody for being a certain race, like black. Or I think gay is protected at this moment, too, isn't it? I'm not sure. I mean, the point is there are protections in place for people. And people like this want to portray white people as the victims of the situation and claim white people are being persecuted. White people are losing out on opportunities and all this stuff. No, things are just being made roughly equivalent. Like the black community makes up roughly 14% of the population, then they should make up roughly 14% of the workforce. If they don't, it could be a sign that there's some level of racism happening. Not intentional. Doesn't have to be intentional racism, but it's there. It's happening, right? That's the message you get from the fact that it's unequal. There are fewer people in the workforce of this demographic than are represented in society, basically. Now, does that mean that, like, you have to, like, that somebody is out there doing this thing intentionally or whatever? No, it doesn't mean any of that stuff. But you have to account for it. That's what affirmative action says. And the Supreme Court is trying to overturn that desperately right now. They're just waiting for their opportunity. Mark my words, in the next 4 years, if the Supreme Court does not change its makeup, affirmative action will be gone. If it isn't, like, already by the time you see this.
It was laced with all sorts of ideology from Marx and Darwin and Hegel and Kimberly Crenshaw and Derek
Hegel, okay.
Bell and all these CRT figures. And I came
CRT thinkers, he calls. Marx was a CRT thinker, okay?
to the school board meeting. I said, look, I was asked to review this. I've reviewed it. This is what I write about. This is what I travel around the country and speak on. If you didn't know this was in there before, I'll give you a pass. But now that I'm telling you, as somebody who studies this for a living, that this is laced with CRT, it's time to do something about it. And of course,
this is actually really fascinating. So in the last part, I think it's the last part at this point, there was a little section where I talked about moral panics, okay? There's a guy, Stanley Cohen, I think is his name. He wrote this whole model of moral panics, built out this whole thing about what you can expect and when they appear and how you get rid of them and stuff like, or not necessarily how you get rid of them, but how they appear anyways. Let me tell you the structure of a moral panic, okay? An example of a moral panic would be old people getting all freaked out about cell phones. You know, cell phones are dominating our culture and we don't know what to do about it. I mean, that's a really mild moral panic. Then there's the AIDS moral panic. If you're gay, you most definitely have AIDS, and you're a danger to everybody around you. Like, you're putting them at risk. There's now the trans moral panic, of course. That's happening at this moment, where people are losing their minds over this stuff. And the trick is to create an argument, to craft an argument that will appeal to moderates, basically, to the people in the middle that could be swayed either way. The KKK did this exact thing. You know what the KKK said in the 60s? Kind of reiterating what I said last time if you didn't see it. The KKK said, people on the left want to force you to marry black people. If you are white, that's part of integration, is forcing you and your children, always got to protect the children, forcing you and your children to marry black people. Part of the deal. Absurd, of course. Nobody was ever pushing for that. Nobody would ever push for that. But that freaked out moderates. It got people worked into a blood frenzy. They said, well, I don't want that. I don't want my kids to be forced to do this or that or whatever. So I have to move to the right. I have to take the side of the KKK in this case. It's simply unreasonable for them to force us to marry black people. How wrong is that? And that's the question that would pass around town. Everybody would ask everyone else, are you in favor of forcing children to marry black people? Are you in favor of forcing children to marry black people? Are you in favor of forcing children to learn about gender ideology? Are you in favor of child grooming? It's all the same stuff. Recycled. There is really no difference. It's all the same strategy. The KKK has been doing it since, the 1800s, honestly. Anyway, let's keep listening to this. So that's generally the structure of a moral panic. Let me just point this out. It comes in 5 parts, 5 different conditions. I'm not going to go through all of them at this moment, but one of them, condition number 3, or point number 2 on the model of the stages of a moral panic, says the nature of these apparent threats are amplified by the mass media, who present the supposed threat through simplistic, symbolic rhetoric. Such portrayals appeal to public prejudices, creating an evil in need of social control, and victims, the moral majority. Here's number 3. A sense of social anxiety and concern among the public is aroused through these symbolic representations of a threat. And number 4, might as well have just read the whole damn thing. Number 4, the gatekeepers of morality, editors, religious leaders, politicians, and other moral thinking people respond to the threat with socially accredited experts pronouncing their diagnoses and solutions to the threat, quote unquote, like new laws or policies or whatever. Here we are listening to somebody who claims to write about this stuff on a regular basis, claims to have deep knowledge on this subject because he talks about it all the time. He knows more than the average bear, and you should listen to him for that reason. He is the expert on this. And he says,
this was in there before, I'll give you a pass. But now that I'm telling you, as somebody who studies this for a living, that this is laced with CRT.
Talking about just what, like, what's laced with CRT? Society? Like people's sermons? What?
It's time to do something about it. And of course, the school board didn't do anything about it. The video.
Oh, the school curriculum. That's what it is. No, it's not. At all. Again, this is a, what, how did it refer to it earlier? This is a socially accredited expert. Somebody who isn't actually an expert in anything, but claims to have expertise by virtue of being famous. This is why I don't call myself an expert. I'm not. I follow this stuff like you wouldn't believe. I watch the craziest stuff. But I'm not an expert. In my opinion, you have to have a degree to be considered an expert. Or you have to have, like, written in the field and have some kind of reputation in this field. You have to be trusted. You have to be cited by other scientists to be considered an expert. I have not been, well, I've been cited by people on Blackboard and some other websites, but I'm not a source. I'm not an expert. I'm not a scientist. Mentally, I consider myself, a scientist, but it's honestly not safe for people to view me that way because it leads to things like this, what we're listening to. This guy who is doing everything he can to portray the situation as though he is an expert and he knows that schools are spreading CRT and all this other garbage.
Laced with CRT, it's time to do something about it. And of course, the school board didn't do anything about it. The video went viral, but the school board didn't change anything. And so this is out there, and I think parents need to be aware of this. And you need to really be, just overboard. I mean, it doesn't matter if you feel like you're kind of on top of your teachers all the time, asking them questions. It's worth it in today's world to really know what's going on.
Dude, these people live in a fantasy land where they are the victims 24/7. Again, you remember? Right here, number 2. Such portrayals appeal to public prejudices, creating an evil in need of social control. Folk devils. And victims, the moral majority. Does this sound familiar?
All the time asking them questions. It's worth it in today's world to really know what's going on.
All right, number 3 says, I'm going to take this to Luke Ball, get his opinion here. Support a conservative candidate or run for office. This is like a big duh. But Luke, is that what you're seeing? Are conservatives still trying to figure out which one to vote for?
Yeah, and the people who aren't finding good candidates need to step up and run. In America, we have such a unique opportunity to choose the leaders who are going to be an authority over us. We read in Romans chapter 13 that every soul should be subject unto the higher power, for there is no power but of God. The powers that be are ordained of God. The powers that be in America, in the United States, get to be chosen by the people. We have such a unique system of government where we...
Well, it was unique 2,000 years ago. It's not really unique now, seems to me. Not for nothing. It just kind of feels like it's really, really common in today's society, in most of the world. Isn't a lot of the world democratic now? I could be wrong on that. I mean, there are varying qualities of democracy. The U.S. has a terrible score. Full democracy, 8% of the world lives under a full democracy. A flawed democracy, which I believe the U.S. is considered a flawed democracy, 37.3%. Hybrid regime, which is like a mix of monarchy and democracy, or dictatorship and democracy, is 18%. So total, what is that? So we're looking at 63.2% of the population lives in some form of democracy, hybrid or flawed or otherwise, or full democracy. Those are the 3. So it's not really unique. It's pretty common, actually, the ability to vote on issues. And again, we're a flawed democracy in the United States.
God, the powers that be are ordained of God. The powers that be in America, in the United States, get to be chosen by the people. We have such a unique system of government where we can select them. It is inconceivable, as my pastor likes to say, that a God who allowed us to create a government and dictates government in the Bible would not want Christians involved in that government, whether that means voting or speaking out or sharing Flashpoint online, going out and running for office, whatever you have to do. It is inconceivable that he would not want us involved in that. So whenever we see lacks of authority or voids where there isn't a Christian conservative voice, it is our duty as Christians, as believers, to step up and say, here am I, send me.
Yeah, so good. So
here I am, send me. Yeah, that was a quote. Matter of fact, Jehovah's Witnesses made a song out of it. Like, I used to sing that song every morning, or every meeting, or lots of meetings anyways. Their songbook was made up of, I don't know, like 200 songs or something like that. Dude, this game is just fantastic, honestly. It's a fantastic game. Anyways, they'd randomly pick, although every congregation, to my knowledge, would have the same song every Sunday. So, every congregation across the world would play the exact same song for the Sunday meeting or whatever. I could be wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure that's how it worked. I mean, if that doesn't scream cult, I don't know what does. Anyway, here I am, send me. Yeah, that's a Bible quote. That's directly from the Bible.
So good. All right, Lucas, let me go back to you for this last one. You said plant yourself in a local church. Now, I'm going to ask you a little bit different twist on this. My whole life you heard about you go to a church, you plant yourself, you don't leave, you don't be a church hopper. But now it seems like we're saying it's okay to leave the church you're planted in.
Wow, that's fascinating. Well, I'm going to make an exception for it, right? It's just this one time. Here's the exception. If it's because they're a woke church, it's okay to change.
Yeah, look, I think that we have to determine is this something, if you're starting to see your pastor go towards wokeness, is this something they're aware of, or are they being deceived in some way? And
so is there some way to pull them over to the right? If you can pull your church leader or whatever over to the right, then maybe you can stay there. But he must be a right-wing extremist, your pastor, if you're going to remain a member of the church.
That's where we sit down and we ask questions. If you're attending church for the very first week and maybe you move to a new area and you start hearing the pastor talk about all these, critical race theory topics from the stage in a positive way, you need to go someplace else. You don't
This is absurd.
have to talk to anybody. You don't have to ask any questions. You could just walk out, don't give any money, go find a new church. But if this is your home church that you've been part of for 5 years, 10 years, 25 years, and you're starting to see your pastor, really dive in, to wokeism, if he didn't celebrate the overturning of Roe v. Wade, if he's not, really taking a stand on these cultural issues, or even worse, going towards these, the leftist, cultural Marxism.
Wow, you can't just not take a position. You must take the opposite position. It's required.
Then you have to start asking some tough questions. And I think if you've been there a while, it's worth sitting down with an elder, with the pastor, and really seeing where they're at and why they're going in this direction. And obviously, at the end of the day, you have to kind of make a decision based upon what you're hearing and the Spirit of God on the inside of you to lead you to the right place. But if they're going woke, it's time to find a new church.
Dude, these people need help, like desperately. Seriously. Get help, guys.
I agree. Time to find a new church and vote with your tithe, your offerings, as well as your feet. All right. So, Lucas, let's talk about the book, Woke Jesus. Where is it and how can people find out more about it?
Yeah, so it's available wherever books are sold. You can pre-order on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Books A Million, or if you go to lucasmiles.org tonight, we are actually shipping right now. So we are the only place in the country for about the next 2 weeks that's actually shipping the book currently. So it doesn't hit retail until, I think, June 6th. But we have them in our...
Yeah, they're just advertising for this supposed self-proclaimed expert and his book. This is just painful, dude. To call yourself an expert like this is embarrassing. What makes him an expert anyways? Where does he believe he got his expertise from? What does he think an expert is exactly? Does he think that you're an expert if you just talk about something a lot? Is that what it is? It's painful, dude. I'm telling you, it's painful how stupid this stuff is.
Our warehouse, and so you can order them at lucasmiles.org, and every copy that goes out from our website I autograph, and we ship those out to you.
I don't have my book yet. What's the deal?
I'm gonna hand deliver yours next week.
Okay.
So in Orlando.
All right.
It's gonna happen.
All right. So speaking of next week, I'm glad you brought that up. Next week,
Okay, I guess I'll create an intro here. What's he say?
we will be in Orlando, Florida at the Religious Broadcasters Convention. Here's what you can do. If you're in that area, it's
Okay, they're advertising for it. I am going to listen to the advertisement, but you know what? Oh my God, please no. Okay. I'm supposed to be going to, isn't it the Temple of Time? I think that's what that is. Yeah, Temple of Time. I love the way that they constructed this game. Truly incredible. The way they did this. Really, really amazing. Honestly. But one problem, I don't have a paraglider. Oh God, that was close. Holy Christ on a cracker. I almost ran right into the wall there. Anyway, let's keep listening here, and then I'll do a new intro.
It's worth driving in, flying in, whatever you got to do for a special Flashpoint Live next Tuesday night. We got that handy graphic we can put up that we are going to be live right there at the NRB convention, and you can come join us, be a part of the live audience. It'll be a smaller audience. You can find out more by just going to the website and finding out more. But come join us live from Orlando next Tuesday night. We will see you there. All right, we're going to
Wow, that's painful.
take a break. We're going to let Luke Ball take a breath, and we're going to hear John Solomon's got a new book out. You won't believe what he's writing about.
No, I think I can believe it. Is it about wokeism? I'm going to take a wild guess and say it's about wokeism and wokeology and whatever, Wokistan and whatever other thing any word that starts with woke or ends with woke, I would be willing to bet that's what he's writing about. Am I right? Am I close at least? Anyway, let me know what you think about it in the comments. This is just painful, dude. Seriously. The cringe is off the charts with this. I'm honestly fascinated by it, though.